I am writing this at 4 a.m., having been unable to sleep during the early morning hours, considering how I was to attempt to communicate with you, as a human, and as a philosopher. This is a chance to do good, to correct and reform. As conscientious as I am, I cannot allow it to pass, without trying to turn the bad into good. As I tossed and turned in my half-sleep, I tried to find words to communicate, share with you the full impact of your behavior upon this real, actual, living, human being officially called Marcus Redback. The universal consequences of that behavior, and the personal, human consequences, and potential consequences. This letter should not be necessary. You should automatically want to do your job as competently and helpfully as possible, with a conscientious spirit, and a desire to make a positive impact on other people's lives, and the world. You are being paid to do it. People should not need to beg you to do your job, with at least a modicum of positive motivation. We should not need to beg people to treat each other with a minimum of dignity and respect. I am not asking you to fight wild animals, or marauding soldiers, or take on huge inconveniences and dangers. Just treat those people who come to you with the minimum dignity and respect you would hope to be afforded yourself, and which you would hope your own loved ones would be afforded by others. I dragged myself out of bed. I have not even put on any clothing. I just had to try to express this finally, while the thoughts were clear in my head. You cannot know if you will be the last person someone asks for help, asks to do their job. No one is expecting heroics from you. No heroic sacrifices or risks. Just to do your job in the way that best helps others, and the world, be a better place. You might be the last straw someone is clutching at. You are not expected to break the law for them, to sacrifice anything, to risk anything, like I have, for decades. Just treat them with basic respect and dignity. To do your job as competently as you can. After all, you are being paid to do it. To serve others. Not in a way in which you must demean yourself, and suffer at the hands of others, as I have for my entire life. But simply to carry out specific tasks in a manner as efficiently as possible, while treating the person as you would wish to be treated, were the tables turned. As you would want others to treat your loved ones, should they find themselves in the same position. Every day we face interactions with others. Every interaction with someone is a chance to do good, to serve others, to make the world a better place, and thus serve ourselves. Or a chance to make the world a worse, more violent, unjust, ugly place. A chance to deny others their basic dignity. A chance to abuse power. To take revenge upon a hapless victim, for all the perceived injustices the world has done to yourself. To play the petty tyrant. To feel powerful, by making them feel powerless. To feel stronger, by making them feel weak. To smugly and complacently lord it over someone, free from accountability, and even provoke them, hoping for some response that can be used to justify even worse treatment of them. Call it mobbing. Call it workplace or service point victimization. It is rampant in this world. And occasionally the victim snaps, and their story appears on the news, and everyone pretends not to understand how they could have done such terrible things. Humans are sadly talented at denial of personal responsibility. For pretending they are not responsible for the way the world is. This is the core of our human problem. The only solution is brutal, ruthless, self-honesty. Taking personal responsibility. Behaving as universal role models. For every scale of human behavior. From the mundane, to the war crimes and crimes against humanity your own government have been perpetrating upon you, without you even realizing it. Waging war by deception on you and our humanity. Consider this letter, this plea, in that context, and it will not appear at all melodramatic. Not at all crazy. It is in fact a plea for sanity. Universal sanity. Personal, and thus collective, responsibility. Rather than denial. Are you going to deny the facts and consequences of your own actions? Deny your own personal responsibility for making the world a better or worse place, through your mundane, everyday, decisions regarding how to treat others. Mental health is merely the accumulation of the emotions produced when people treat you badly or well. With respect and dignity, or as potential victims to be toyed with. Every interaction is saved and stored and accumulates. For better or worse. The result is peace and prosperity, or a war of all against all, waged by deception, and the abuse of any power that falls to opportunistic actors. You can never know how far your interlocutor has already been pushed by their life. Take care. Ruthless, brutal, self-honesty is your best protection from you, or a loved one, being the last person to push someone over the edge. To be the straw that broke the camel's back. It could be a stranger you disrespect in the street, or in a bar, or at your workplace, or on the drive home to your family. Do you recognize all forms of violence? Such as denying someone their rights. Such as turning people away when they come to you for help. Such as failing to take your job seriously, in the sense of generating the best outcomes for your clients, and your society. The effects of your actions, including the violence you commit, upon others, is what you would ideally care about. What you should care about, but which sadly, too few humans actually do care about. Whether how you treat someone, in your workplace, or in private, in arranged encounters, or very brief, random, interactions that you are barely, if at all, even conscious of, might be their last straw. It might determine whether they live or die. Of course you probably only care whether, in the process, you or someone you do care about, suffers as a result. But maybe you still have some sort of humanity in you. Despite society and the world doing its best to destroy that. And we all need to be aware that at any moment, we, and what we actually do, or fail to do, might be the straw that broke the camel's back, for someone. Human nature is for humans to be at war with each other. Waging war by deception. Abusing opportunistic power. That is our history. We must reform this human nature, consciously. First making it conscious. Admitting our faults and flaws. And conscientiously working to reform our own human nature, and our society. If we treat life as competition, as war by another name, we end up with the society we have. In which a few people enslave all the others. Unobtrusively. Leaving them with the false impression they are free. That this is the best of all possible worlds. That the evils are necessary evils. That liberty, rights, and personal dignity, must be sacrificed for some greater good. If you ever wake up to the reality you are living in, you will be horrified. You will claim you are innocent victims of it. That the world is to blame. That the system is to blame. That the leaders are to blame. No. We are to blame. All of us. This world will always be the representation of our collective wills. Schopenhauer barely missed his own potential insight. Kant went a bit too far with honesty, but got the point about modeling behaviors. But as Goethe, whose name you proudly use to represent the best in Germanness, noted, Das bist das du wissen kannst, Darfst du den Buben doch nicht sagen? But you probably have no idea what he meant. This letter is not intended to be as melodramatic as the sufferings of young Werther. I have avoided emotionality as far as is possible, without missing the point. Allowing you to miss the point. Maybe I, or the previous, or next, person you commit acts of violence against, as you did me, won't hang themselves on your workplace gate, after making a last video, in which they give you responsibility for their death. Maybe they won't make sure as many people learn how you failed them, as a human being. And failed in your professional capacities. Failed to simply do your job even. A job you are well rewarded for. Though of course you compare your work conditions to those more fortunate than yourself. Rather than with the massive majority of people who could only dream of having such a great job. And such great working conditions. And pay. Maybe the person you are the last straw for, that you have the moral responsibility for having broken, never manages to hold you accountable for your actions. Maybe they never make videos and write up the complete story of their interactions with you, and how it broke them. How it became the final straw. Maybe they do not send it to every organization or person who might be interested. Whose job it might be to investigate such bureaucratic violence. Such mobbing. Such victimization. Such deliberate failure to attempt to offer quality client service. Such unwillingness to make any effort, beyond the absolute bare minimum required to look like they are doing their job. Or maybe they do, and you are held accountable in some way. So that the public learn of your actions and inactions. So that you are held responsible and are forced in some way to accept personal responsibility for your actions. When you imagined you could smugly and complacently hide behind your high gates and secrecy. That your victim, and those people who cared about them, would never even learn your name. Let alone learn about what you had done. And failed to do. How you had failed to do your job. And failed in your basic humanity. When given a chance to help, at no personal cost or risk, another human being who had depended upon that humanity. And found it lacking. Who was dependent upon your goodwill. On you acting in good faith. I am as German as it gets. Read my sentences, long as paragraphs, often containing many ideas. Read my philosophy. I am as rational as any other German has ever been accused of. But also somehow more emotional than Germans are held to be. I am talking about stereotypes. You may accuse me of melodrama. But that is a symptom of your lack of humanity. Your lack of empathy. Or your lack of experience, with how hard the world is, when you step outside your cushy life. Your cushy job. From behind the high walls that insulate you from the hard, harsh world outside. Did you sleep in the streets and in the parks of Tallinn, during chilling, windy nights, because the people paid to help you refused to comply with the laws posted on the actual gate to your workplace? Posted laws that you pass every time you enter or leave the embassy. Did someone refuse to even offer a brief note to state you had approached them for help? Did someone refuse to make a simple, local, phone call, to say Marcus approached the German embassy for help but we could not help him? So that as a result you slept many nights in the street, and park, in normal clothes, so that you spent hours shivering from the cold wind. Chilling you to the bone. Leaving you a chattering wreck. And leaving you to be repeatedly told by police to go to the German embassy. Police who refused to help, because the embassy refused to admit you had approached them for help, and been turned away. Did someone steal your phone? Did the police refuse to give you your phone back, so that you could not even attempt to contact friends for help? could not do anything. Because the police refused to help. Because the Germans paid to help refused to help, and insulted you as a liar. Because the police refused to take an assault seriously, even though it had been caught on several cameras, and would not provide any documentation. Telling you, instead, to go to the German embassy. Where you were not just refused help, but insulted and slandered. Did embassy officials refuse to do the job they are paid to do, and required by German law to do, when you approached them? Even refuse to give you any sort of proof that you had approached them? So that you had to ask a total stranger, living opposite the German embassy, to call the police for you, to explain to them that the German embassy refused to treat you even with the bare minimum of human dignity, as a human being. How would you feel if it had been you or one of your loved ones, who had been treated so despicably? And how would you feel if, when you asked for a simple explanation and apology, the people involved simply ignored you? Over and over again. Now that sounds like a believable prelude to a novel or movie about a mass shooting. Ending with people exclaiming, how could such a thing happen? And why would a person do such a thing? With the viewer or public blaming it on a deranged mind. When if people were honest, they would admit their personal responsibility for such things. For failing to treat other people with any sort of humanity. Instead behaving as if unaccountable gods. Behaving as if they had no personal responsibility to treat others with respect and dignity. To consider, each time they might get away with whatever they feel like doing to the powerless person opposite them, whether that is the best response. Whether it might not be better to treat each other with basic humanity. And thus contribute to a world that is humane. You do not know anything about me. You do not appear to understand how your actions might prove the straw that broke the camel's back. I have been searching, since that assault, to find a reason to live. I have volunteered at convents and hostels, and managed to survive. I need to renew my German passport, at my own expense, not out of choice. It is a great expense to me. One you can probably not comprehend. And lacking empathy as you have proven you do, you are not willing to even try to imagine how things are from my perspective. You demand a document. You do not explain where it is to be obtained. Or cite the paragraphs of the enacted German laws that allow you to demand it. You do not respond when you are sent the completed form which, according to my research, you are required to process, or forward to the appropriate office for processing. You do not respond when I seek clarification. Or further clarification. When it seems clear to me that I must, loathsome as it is to a German bureaucrat, tell you how to do your own job. Clearly you do not understand what your job is. Or how to do it. Do you wish me to approach the woman living opposite the German embassy, to ask her for a legal affidavit of what happened that day? She witnessed it all. Are you going to try to lie and pretend it did not happen as I described? The Estonian police finally returned my phone, and even gave me a case file number, and one of the videos showing me being assaulted. Exactly as I reported to 3 members of staff at the embassy. The gatekeeper, a female embassy official, and a male Estonian member of staff. Are you going to continue acting, and thinking, and feeling, as if you are unaccountable for your actions? Professionally. And as a human being. Is that the role model you wish to be for everyone else in the world? Is that how you want others to treat you and your loved ones? I of course am directing this to the people responsible for refusing to help me that day. And the people who are refusing to communicate with me. That is, ultimately, the lowest a human can go to. To act as if they can ignore another human being. Dismiss them. like some tyrant, like some dictator, like some god. Not attend to them, not recognize their humanity, not afford them the very least level of dignity and respect another human being must be shown, if we are not to fall below the level of wild animals. Which humanity does, over and over, as recorded in our history books. These interactions might easily prove the final straw for me. The straw that breaks my back. I am attempting to communicate. I am not being melodramatic. I am attempting to recall your humanity back. To communicate obvious things to people who feel they are entitled to ignore them. I am a philosopher. Probably the world's greatest. And far from naive. I do not expect humans to behave other than they have, historically. But as a philosopher prophet, I do hope I might somehow play a positive role in awakening the humanity in people. I do hope to be a force for constructive, positive, reform, of human nature and human society. But at some point that hope must fail. Do you want to be the straw that breaks this camel's back? Probably you will not have to come to work to find my lifeless body hanging on the embassy gate or fence. With videos on all the platforms of me explaining that situation. And the part you played in it. And I certainly am not threatening to go on a shooting rampage. But of course if you are the sort of scumbag who refuses to ever take personal responsibility for your actions, your first thought will be to try to twist my words, deny that anything I have written here ever happened, and attempt to further victimize me. My warning is that none of us can ever know what the people we are interacting with are going through. How far they have already been pushed by life. We cannot know whether they might end their own life, as a result of our own actions or inactions. Simply treating them without respect, and denying them dignity, and failing in our humanity towards them, might be the straw that breaks the camel's back for them. Can we live with such outcomes? And if we ignore our personal responsibility, what faith can we have in others, when we, or our loved ones, require their help? Perhaps you feel you are shielded and cocooned and insulated from such situations. Probably, given your professional situation, you have not had a hard life. And cannot empathize with someone in my situation. Or in fact with most of humanity, in the general situation on this planet. You imagine you or your loved ones will never find themselves in the same sort of situation as I find myself. Maybe this life you will manage to avoid most of the reality of this world. But with infinite next lives will come the high probability that you will. And you might, then, regret not having done what you could have done, when things were going good for you, that might have set the world to right, or at least in the right direction. By acting as if you wanted your actions to be the role model for the actions of everyone else. By following the golden rule, of treating others as you want you, and your loved ones, to be treated. If you are an intelligent, humane person, you will appreciate how hard it has been to attempt to express these thoughts in a way that was productive and constructive. Most people in the world will not have the power to express such thoughts and emotions in words. They are forced to resort to actions. What we call history. And the news. Rest assured I will do what I can to find a legal remedy to the injustice I suffered, if you fail to treat me as a human being, and refuse to apologize. And refuse to even communicate with me, to find solutions to my problems. My problems are our problems. If you have convinced yourself otherwise, then you will be asking for whom the bell tolls, when you should really know, by now, it tolls for thee. You am I. For as we do unto others, we are really doing unto ourselves. Lack of respect for others is really disrespect for yourself. I fully appreciate that any attempt at communication, of sharing thoughts and feelings with another human being is one of the most dangerous risks a person can take. It is up to you whether we both learn and grow from our encounters, or fail in the most important task we face in this world. I took a huge risk in exposing my thoughts and feelings. I have more respect for you than you have shown to me. Because I respect myself. I give you credit for being human. It is up to you to prove me right or wrong. In doing so you will, as a role model for everyone else, seal the fate of humanity. That is no overstatement. The world is the representation of our collective wills. We are role models for everyone else. As we do unto others shall be done unto us. You am I. Yes, it is now 5:30 am and I still have not put on any clothes. It was a challenge to find the right words to express myself here. It is always a challenge to attempt to share, to communicate ideas with other people. Let alone people hostile to myself. Let alone to people with something to hide. Something they should rightly feel ashamed of. But I am not here to shame anyone. I am here to allow people to correct for their past mistakes, and to move forward, having gained from their experiences. I will now have to go outside and stand in the cold corridor, outside a neighbor's door, to use their Wi-Fi to upload this as a video, and to email this to you. If you fail again, and thus continue failing, and demonstrate a will to continue failing, both in your humanity and your professional role, I will ensure as many people in Germany get this letter as possible. I wrote it in English to avoid even more risk of misunderstanding than I already risk. But of course where necessary I will write in German. All the best. Marcus Heinrich Rebach. Sovereign Ecclesia, the Free Church. Holistic philosopher, prophet of the Eden Protocols. German citizen beyond doubt. A cultural treasure of the German people, and the world.